Hey there, how's it going? Adrienne Elise here. I just thought I would pop in and talk to you about what's going on in the planets and the stars. How are you doing? Welcome to the Gaia Daily for July 11th through 14th. So what we're feeling right now, and we have been for the last couple of days, is a really intense opposition between the Sun in Cancer. Okay, so remember, we're in the eclipse season where we've just had that total solar eclipse, and now we're going to have a partial lunar eclipse on the 16th. And so that is because the sun and the moon are lined up with the nodes of the moon. And so that's why everything is just like lining up in a line. So we're in the middle of these eclipses, which is a very strange energy to begin with. And so now the sun is come up to this exact conjunction with the North Node. And it happens to be exactly opposite Saturn, which is conjunct the South Node. Now, the sun is our identity. It's like, who are we? And Saturn is karma, limitations, restrictions, boundaries, the laws, the rules, the obstacles that are in our path, but also our true path. And so, but it's all on this backdrop, this juxtaposition of the nodes of the moon, right in between these two intense eclipses. And so we're in this place of like, who are you? Right? And this place of being suspended, because we also have Mercury retrograde going on. And so we're feeling the suspended in between, because eclipses are this lining up. They're about timelines. So it gives this energy of being outside of time, like maybe time slowing down or going fast, or being stuck outside of time in general. So what it feels like with this sun opposite Saturn, it's like, who are you, and who are you trying to be, and who have you been trying to be that you can't be, and who are you really, which you haven't been able to be. And it's just kind of got a lot of tension around our identity and who we think we are. Now, lining up with the nodes, the North Node, the South, the nodes of the moon are about the past and the future. So we're having this sense of like, we're not identifying with who we were in the past, but we don't know who we are in the future either. And just like a complete identity crisis, you know? So if you're kind of feeling that way, like you just have no direction, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know, it's almost like all these plans that you've made, these grand plans for your life and these desires that you had are just like, you know, maybe they haven't worked out the way you've wanted them to, and maybe they just don't fit right now anymore. But you don't really know who you are. Now, this is really powerful for the indigo soul, light worker soul, starseed, because we have the what's happened in our past lives, and because of situations, is that we've had been who we are, because it's been kind of stolen from us in a way, but we've also given it away because we bought into programming that we can't handle who we are, or we don't deserve our gifts because of so-called failures and things like that have happened in past lives. So we've rejected and thrown away these parts of ourselves, but it's who we really are. So the essence of who we are is what is carried through these lifetimes, you know? So your identity, your everyday identity, what you call yourself, your role you're playing, the sex you are in this life, you know, the different things that you play in this life, that stuff all goes away when we die, right? And move to our next life. But what comes with us is our talents, our skills, our experiences, and we grow as a soul and we carry that with us. But we have been disconnected from this truth of who we are. And it's coming up huge right now for people. And but we're also having an opportunity to find out who we are and reclaim who we are and reclaim our personal power and our strength and our ability to stand up for our truth. So it's a really potent, intense time, but also there may be some great discoveries available to claim and own who you really are and start living from that place. Okay, so the discontent that's coming up so intensely this whole year around with Jupiter and Sagittarius, around this disconnection from our quest, from the meaning, from life, just feeling like we're living this fake life that doesn't really have any deeper meaning, and it doesn't reflect the truth of who we are. And this deeper unrest has been going on all year, but now there's this kind of crux energy. It's like we're reaching the line, you know, and this Sun opposite Saturn is bringing up frustration, because Saturn is like limitations and energies that feel like they work against you. And so it's this energy of not being able to be who you are and not being allowed, you know, maybe some force outside of yourself. Saturn in Capricorn, at home in Capricorn, is speaking to authoritarian hierarchical structures and where we may have given our power away in the past. And we've often done that by denying who we are, right? To stay safe and survive. But it's no longer working, right? Because we're not surviving. We're barely surviving when we need to thrive. We need to start living, you know, this. So a lot of this energy has to do with Chiron and Aries, because Chiron is a wounded healer. So wherever it is, it's speaking to deep wounds. And in Aries, it's the wounds of the self, of the identity. Like, is it okay to be who you really are? Is it okay to exist as who you really are? Now, just a couple of days ago on the 9th, on Tuesday, Chiron took a retrograde. Turned retrograde. So we're still feeling this shift. And the planets that move slower, you don't feel so much while they're retrograde, but when they turn retrograde or direct. And so Chiron, now this is really interesting. So we're really feeling the Chiron energy. It's blooming. It's on deck. And it's especially because of Mars. So Mars right now, remember that Mars and Mercury have been really close, and that we are going to still continue to feel that through these next couple of days. And Mars, so Mercury and Mars were together. Mars is going into this square with Uranus. Mercury took a retrograde. So it's really, there's some really powerful messages from the universe here right now. Mars is our action planet, our male planet, our warrior self, wants to see some stuff happen, right? But it's in this intense square with Uranus, and Uranus represents these new energies that are trying to infuse into our world, and new technologies, new energies, moving into the Aquarian age, but like having that energetically land into our physical reality. And so it's about the future. And Mars in square, though, it's like, oh, it's frustration of not being able to move, because squares have tension. It's a corner, you know, it's like you can't keep going the way you're going. Something has to shift. Now, this is interesting because Mars is in Cancer, you know, with, you know, as well as the Sun. And so we're looking at what's keeping us from moving forward. And Mars in Chiron and Aries is saying these wounds around whether or not we can be who we really are. Now, this is interesting though, because so everything with the Sun opposite Saturn and Chiron at play, where everything is talking about who we think we are and our frustration about not being able to live more true to who we really are. But maybe that's because we don't really know who we are. And it's frustrating, and it feels like there's a bloom of these energies of feeling like they're working against you, and kind of sorting through all of this, you know, karmic bloom. You're always going to have karma come up with, especially Saturn on the South Node, and an ego death, you know, because we've got to die to who we thought we were, and we've got to be reborn into who we really are. And so it's really interesting because Mars is in that tension square with Uranus, but it's also in a trine with Chiron. And it's in this trine. It was in this trine as Chiron turned retrograde. And it's, again, it's like there's very powerful messages coming through right now that our forward motion is supported by claiming the truth of who we are and living from that place of truth. Living from that place of integrity, living from that true soul essence that we may have lost or given away over lifetimes because we had traumatic experiences or we were not welcome to be who we really are on this planet. And it's all coming up right now. And yet we cannot go one step further until we come closer to who we are. So the intensity right now, the karmic bloom, the ego death, all that stuff is happening. But it's actually all about giving us an opportunity, like to, and especially with these eclipses, to be revealed who we really are. So underneath all of this drama is this opportunity to claim our truth and kind of discover. It's a beautiful discovery. This is a big part of what I do in my individual sessions, and it'll probably be coming up in this soul group session that's going to be happening for this upcoming partial lunar eclipse in Capricorn on the 16th, next Tuesday. And so I hope you can join me for that. This is an incredible discovery, because one of the things that's coming through around these eclipses is timeline alignment, because what's happening is the north node and the south node of the moon, which represent the past and the future, and how are we going to get to where we're going, and what's holding us back, and how are we going to move forward. So we're having all that lining up happening, and so it's a really good energy for a timeline alignment. And how you do a timeline alignment is to revisit a place in your past where you were more in alignment with who you really are. So you can get a sense vibrationally of this deeper soul essence that may have been rejected, given away, lost, forfeited to the control energies, to the authority energies. And it's all coming up right now because this eclipse is in Capricorn, partial lunar eclipse. So it's just partial, but it's conjunct Pluto. And it's like it coming to a head of this 2020 astrology. Like, we are in it now. Like, we are deep in the 2020 astrology mysterious and portal because of these eclipses happening in Cancer and Capricorn. And a full moon partial eclipse conjunct Pluto is got some powerful messages for us. But one of them is Pluto is the destroyer. It's about breaking down what's not working and what's not true and coming to the truth. So what are we breaking down? We're breaking down, well, with conjunct the moon, it's about our emotions. So maybe it's these emotional patterns and programming and traumas, which would really fit the Chiron and Aries energy. And we're breaking those down because that's what we're identified with, right? More than who we really are. And so there's a huge opportunity for a timeline alignment to break patterns, contracts with especially control energy, authoritarian contracts, wherever you've given your power away in past lives, allowing for a timeline alignment to who you really are, vibrationally coming into alignment with this resonant frequency with where you want to go. But we don't know where we want to go. This is this suspended weird thing because nothing fits, nothing feels right. Everything you've done to move forward isn't working anymore. And maybe that's why, because we're not in tune with who we really are. And that's what the universe is saying to us. Now, with Mars in Cancer and the Sun in Cancer, and the North Node in Cancer, it's saying, how are we going to move forward? How do we move forward? And that has to do with nurturing. So the nurturing energy that's coming through right now, the messages around that say that we have to nurture our true self, right? We have to start to honor. So a lot of us live our lives, especially if you've had these past lives traumas where you've had to shut down who you are or hide who you are. And we live our lives as a survival mechanism. We live our lives complying to what the energies outside and the people and the organizations and the structures of society and family members and the people around us, to what they think we are, right? We are constantly accommodating, especially, the more kind of out there your past and your higher evolutionary experiences and those, what you have access to, more magic and light that you've done over many evolutions and lifetimes before you came to Earth, the more of that you have, the more you've had to compensate yourself. And so this is speaking directly to these souls on the planet right now, saying you can't pretend anymore. that you're different, that you're not different. And you cannot concede or comply or compensate who you are anymore. You can't go anywhere, you know? And so it's this uncomfortable blooming of stuff because it's showing us where we've given our power away. And every day, every moment, every experience has so much intensity, but also richness, you know, these gifts, because it's showing us what we need to break down as far as this programming around who we really are. And then, but there's jewels there, right? So part of coming back to the session, this beautiful discovery available through the timeline alignment. It's in alignment with the timeline alignment of who you really are and what you've experienced and what's inside of you that's been eating at you, wanting to be expressed in this world, but you're compensated and traumatized away from it. You know, so it's something like, an example would be that maybe you used your gifts and then you were persecuted for that, your light, your healing, and then your subconscious through the programming around that says, well, I'll never do that again. You know, I'll never do that again. Just make sure that doesn't happen, right? And so you've just said, well, I'll never be who I really am. Now, these gifts that we gather with us over lifetimes, what we carry with us, you can't actually get rid of them. There's kind of this false misinformation that, or, you know, false belief out there around, well, this life I'm going to manifest this, and this life I'm going to do this. It's like if you've developed one of these skills as a healer or as a light worker, or in these, who knows what kind of skills we have that we don't know we have, a lot of it, leadership ability and stuff like that, these souls, you can't get rid of it once you have it. It's not like, oh, and I'm going to go be something else now. It's like that can manifest in a multitude of different ways, but you are not whole and complete if you're not integrating and using these gifts and skills. And when we're not using them, it makes us depressed and sad. And this is that Jupiter and Sagittarius frustration of like, I can't get up and live another day that doesn't have, just isn't in alignment with my truth. I'm so sick of playing the game of this world and the society and what everybody else says I need to be and not be. And it's coming to a head. And that's a lot of what this partial lunar eclipse is about, because the Capricorn, Saturn at home in Capricorn, Pluto conjunct the full moon, is saying we've got to break ties with, it's like one thing to be empowered and say, yes, I want to be who I really am. I want to express who I really am. But then when we go to do it, we come up against fear programming and these contractual arrangements. You know, somewhere you're complicit. It's one thing to say, oh yeah, all these forces have worked against me, but where are you complicit? Where did you agree to give away your power? Where did you agree to hide who you are in order to stay safe on this planet? And so it's all coming up for review. And it's an amazingly powerful time to break these contracts, and maybe underneath the rubble of this breakdown of our false personality, breakdown of the contracts, breakdown of the power structures that we've allowed in our psyche, because underneath all that rubble is this beautiful jewels of who you are, and they're waiting to be discovered. So I hope you can join me for that soul group session. That's Tuesday. It's going to be at the exact time, leading right up to the exact time of this partial lunar eclipse. That's 3 p.m. Mountain Time in the US. And that's on Tuesday, the 16th. It's $20 for this soul group session. And what we do is we look at shared past life pictures and energies, and get clearings. And, you know, probably it sounds like timeline alignment is going to come into play. So of course, we don't know exactly what's going to happen because we're connecting to our higher selves and working with our highest self, our highest guidance, to come back to some sort of truth here of who we are. So I hope you can join me for that. If you can't make it live, you can catch it on the replay. The replay is available at the same link you sign up at immediately after. And that's true for all the events that I hold. So keep that in mind. So thank you so much for joining me. And I will be in touch soon with more information about this upcoming eclipse and everything else that's going on in are the planets and stars. So until next time, I'm Adrienne Elise. Namaste.